Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Forced Strategy Gaming. Also welcome back to Player Cam, where we watch the games through the eyes of the players you love. Yes, again, this is Player Cam, and for those who don't know, essentially what we do is we watch the game through the camera, the vision of the players playing the game themselves. Now, in this particular game, the player that we are highlighting, there we go, the player that we're highlighting is SlayerSBoxer. For those of you who don't know, SlayerSBoxer was a very, very famous StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 1 player. Did extremely well, which was known as one of the best for quite some time. He has obviously moved on to StarCraft 2, as many players have, and he's doing fairly well here as well. Just a strong player in general, very strong and solid in his gameplay, his mechanics. He knows what he's doing, and he's a smart player. So, again, here at Player Cam, we're going to be watching the game specifically through his eyes. Now, the purpose of doing this, and the reason why we are doing this, is because we want to see everything that Boxer does in his games. We want to have a good idea of the way he plays, the way he moves his camera, trying to get some insight as to exactly what he's doing and how he plays the game. And that's the general idea. I think this can help a lot of newer players just to see kind of an ideal level of play, ideally what you would be liking to do. Now, seeing the Overlord from his opponent here, and just so you do know, his opponent is Mass, and bouncing back and forth, you can see all of his hotkeys. Purpose behind this, just because, you know, some players just like to do this. That's pretty much it. Some players like to put their commands on all these hotkeys. A lot of players, especially professional players, kind of have not a nervous tick, but they just, you know, early in the game, they kind of like to spam around. Let's take a look at that APM real quick here as well. Oh, there we go, APM right there. So around 158, 141. Obviously, there's nothing that necessitates this high of an APM early in the game, but it's more of a warming up, to be honest with you. I know in my games, I personally kind of spam in the beginning, bouncing back in between my hotkeys just to get ready, basically, for the big fights and when it does happen, rather than going from, you know, 0 to 60, essentially. It allows my hands to kind of be warmed up, if you will. So, we're going to go back to the production tab right here. Going to be doing some scouting, changing that orbital command. So far, a very standard build, except for that bunker being dropped right now. Boxer is going to be trying to drop a bunker. The purpose is to basically deny this expansion, try to stop his opponent from expanding, and you will see a lot of Terran players do that. You know, Boxer especially, he has kind of an affinity for going bio-heavy. He loves the Marine, and the Marine's a strong unit, you know, rightfully so. He's got good reason to love the Marine. Now, obviously not being able to complete that because of the attack from the drones, losing the Marine there, so that's a little unfortunate. That's really too bad. He wasn't able to pull that off quite as much as he would like to. Gonna have to be forced to pull back at this point, pretty much. And he is going for an early expansion. So again, you know, Boxer is known for unorthodox play, and that's something that we're gonna see whenever we kind of highlight whenever we do Boxer for a player cam. It's just it'll make for an interesting game, nonetheless. It'll make for an unorthodox game as well. Moving the Marines to the edge of the base, the point there is to try to catch any Overlords that are attempting to scout. Try to also snipe them out of the sky, if at all possible. Still hasn't made any transition yet, but he is coming down with those double refineries. So, you know, after that early Marine push didn't work out, he's going to be preparing for the next stage. I think this is something important, too, that you guys can really take and try to apply to your early games. You can see so far how unorthodox of a build this is. You know, the truth is that what you go for a build, the type of build you go for, isn't as important as your mechanics and the way you do it. Making sure you keep your resources low, making sure you get things as soon as possible, and then keeping up constant production. We're going to see constant production from all of his barracks. We're going to see constant production from his command centers as well. There's always going to be SCVs, and there'll always be Marines or Marauders or whatever buildings that he is using in the game, whatever composition he's using in the game. The production is going to be constant. If you can keep constant production, if you can keep your resources low when needed, you're going to do well no matter what build you do. I guess it's the general idea. I think it was Day9 who said, you know, I could get to Diamond using just Hellions. And as strange as that may sound, it's true. With strong mechanics, you can do well in this game against a lot of players, against the average player. If you can just work on getting your strong mechanics, using your hotkeys, being able to micro properly, being able to produce constantly, if you can do these things, then you're going to do pretty well. You're going to be a pretty solid player, and you're going to do well against a lot of the people that you face on Battle.net. So, enough with that tangent, though. Getting into what Boxer's doing, we're seeing here that he's going with a 3-rack, so you know, a bio-heavy build. Also coming down with that factory that's getting a tech lab on it as well. So likely going to be seeing some siege tanks from that. And you can see here, looking at the hotkeys, if we take a look at the bottom of the screen, you can see him bouncing in between his buildings, bouncing in between his attachments, everything like that. He's got the hotkeys set up here, and that's important. That's something that you want to do. Not seeing his army hotkeyed. That seems a little odd to me, but it's a kind of a preferential thing. You know, he might just not have it hotkeyed yet, but when he does finally push out, he'll do it. I personally like to hotkey right away, but you know, who am I to say what Boxer is doing is wrong? Because clearly it isn't. He knows what he's doing. I do want to note too, while I was kind of talking about general gameplay mechanics and just general play period, that you saw Boxer put those 3 barracks at the front of his base. Obviously, the reason for doing that is to help defend and help prevent against the Baneling of Us. That is why he did it. I'm not seeing a scan go down. He clearly just isn't worried at the moment as to what his opponent has. He's going to rely on an early push as his scouting. And I've said this before. I've said this in other games. Attacking is a form of the scouting, whether you attack with banshees, whether you attack with some sort of a drop, anything that allows you to get eyes on your opponent's base or your opponent's units is a form of scouting. So although Boxer hasn't scanned yet, once he does finally push out, once he attacks, that will be a scout of what his opponent's going for. He's going to see what he has for units. I suggest always really grabbing Zelnaga towers. I think that's a fantastic idea. Grabbing the Zelnaga tower would essentially allow Boxer to see any push coming. Now, against Zerg as Terran, it's a little more difficult. You kind of have to use a Hellion to do that. Putting a Marine there alone, it's going to die to a Zergling or 2 that decides to run up and grab it. I'm now getting attacked here, and we'll see exactly how Boxer plays this out. It looks like he's pulling his units back. Saw a lot of roaches, realized that in that position he wasn't going to be able to defend. So pulling his units back. He doesn't have siege mode yet, unfortunately. That is coming. The tanks alone will do pretty well against the roaches, but obviously they're going to be much more effective in siege mode. So as soon as that's done, he's going to be in a better position. Now, something that's really threatening and a little bit scary is that Marines alone don't do really well against roaches. He really needs those siege tanks to be able to fend off those roaches effectively. You can see coming out with the Marauders as well at this point, and that is to help against the roaches. You pretty much need those Marauders or siege tanks if you're going for bio plus tank to deal with the roaches. Sieging up his tanks right now to, again, help defend if that roach push decides to come again. Also, you saw him bring that command center back down to his natural. Getting supply blocked there, that is a little unfortunate. It's not misfortunate, because that's not a word. I've been told that I say misfortunate a lot, and upon realizing that, wow, that's a made-up word, I should probably stop using it. So seeing those Baneling move in, and what we're going to see is Boxer just try to micro as much as possible. Essentially what we saw him do was pull back his units away from the Banelings, right, obviously, and then into the range of the siege tanks. And that's kind of what you want to do. Never, ever, if possible, have Marines anywhere near Banelings. If you see Banelings coming and you don't have siege tanks, the idea is going to be to stem your Marines back and try to pick off the Banelings before they get anywhere near your units. Getting supply block there as well, that's something that can happen when you're running on multiple production buildings. You know, Boxer has quite a few production buildings right now, sitting on 4 barracks, I believe. Yeah, sitting on 4 barracks at the moment, so quite a lot. He's also got that factory there as well. So moving forward with his units, we can see at this point, like I mentioned earlier in the game, how we didn't see his army hotkeyed. He does have it hotkeyed here. It's also good to, you know, hotkey things like your siege tanks on a different button. This allows you to get them into siege mode easily. It also allows you to, you know, have that separate button for your bio units to allow you to stim pack quickly. The other option is just tabbing, though, and that is probably what Boxer does. Tabbing will switch from your Marines to your siege tanks. You know, if you click this right here, it'll start off with the Marines, and you hit tab, it'll bring you to your siege tanks. So that's the other option as well. Aside from having separate hotkeys, you can just use the tabbing ability. Seeing a scan go down now, you can see here something else to realize. He is in his opponent's base, but he's still producing. You can see all you really have to do is hit those hotkeys. He didn't even have to go back to his base for that. Just using those hotkeys is going to allow you to produce while you're away from your base. Now that's really important. That's something that it's a good skill to have. Now those siege tanks getting attacked by those mutalisks there, but luckily Marines do very, very well, and this is why Marine tank is a very solid build against Zerg. Again, the real big threat to you is going to be banelings. You're really going to have to worry about banelings, but tanks tend to take care of banelings quite well. As long as you don't get caught out of position, you should do pretty well. And again, we're having those massive marauders. The purpose is, the reason that Boxer did go for that was to deal with the possibility of roaches from his opponent. But don't go too marauder heavy, because once those mutalisks come out, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Looks like you didn't have that command center rallied there. Now, that's pretty unfortunate as well. That's something you want to make sure you do whenever, pretty much as soon as you start building command center, you do want to make sure, as soon as you start building it, you want to make sure you rally it. In this particular game, he did have to lift it off and then redrop it because of that roach push. I'm guessing he had just forgotten at that point to re-rally, but that's not that big of a deal. Something you can do also to prevent things like idle workers, using that shift command, holding down shift, and then queuing up different actions. You can do that so that you start building something, and if you hold down shift and queue the unit back to your minerals, they will always go back there immediately. Look at those banelings. Now, normally those would do good if they managed to reach his marines, but you can see that Boxer pretty much used the tank fire as well as stim pack and pulled back his units to get out of the range of those marines, and it was a pretty effective victory here for Boxer. So good game between the two players. Again, we did concentrate on Boxer in this game. Just a few notes and tips as to what he did and how he did it. Using those hotkeys, very effective, allowing you to produce while you're away from your base. That's something you always want to be able to do. Putting down new expansions, try to always re-rally. Again, in this game, he had to lift it off and drop it, so I'm guessing he just forgot to re-rally after it was dropped. Just a mental note for you. Try to make sure that you do that in your games as well. So once again, guys, this has been Force from Force Strategy Gaming. If you guys like our videos and you like what's going on here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. You hit them early with a strong force while they're trying to tech up. You do so much damage that you are ahead of the game, and then it's just trying to maintain that lead. If you can maintain that lead and you can continue to add to your forces, there's literally no way they're going to be able to catch up. They will have to, at some point in the game, do significant damage to you in return. Now, obviously, attempting to do that, the opponent in this game did attempt to do that by moving out with those banshees, but